Oh, we're live. Hey, world. We're gonna give you time to come in because we always just jump right in and we be talking to ourselves. So we have like a whole introduction, and we're talking to the three of us, two of us, three. Yep, numbers. It's great. But anyways, hello all. Come on in. Gonna give you some time to bring the people, invite the people. This one's about the men, sisters. So invite the men's in your world. So we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this right, and we're gonna do it well. But anyway, Steph and Chris, how we feeling today?
Great. Tuesday,
This is,
school year wrapping up. I'm excited.
Mm-hmm.
I am alive. I am here. We always pick good topics, so I'm excited to talk about this one. So
Now, Christopher, this is the second time you said I'm alive and well.
I have to celebrate every
My clinical brain is like red flag, red flag, red flag.
I did not wake up this morning, so I did, thankfully. So I must celebrate that.
As you should, sir. As you should. You know, I celebrate you and all of your aliveness.
Yes.
When I say alive, I don't mean like as if I'm feeling suicidal. I mean as though I'm alive and present, not just my heart is beating.
I like that.
I'm grateful that it's beating, but I'm also very present. So, despite what's occurred today or yesterday or whatever day.
You know what's missing? Christopher needs to do like a spoken word piece and like just wow the audience. And then I'll be like, I'll be in the background like this. Like,
look, it's Men's Health Month, so
maybe we'll save that for the end of the month.
You need to pen something? Yeah, we'll give you all the way to the end of the month. We'll have like a soul cafe.
Sure.
Yes.
Boom.
Yes, Christopher.
Boom.
I believe you can do it, Fran. I believe in your greatness.
I think we should all share poems, actually.
I do too. Or a song or some other type of creative.
All share poems.
Yes, I agree.
I mean, I can do a little one-liner.
It can be a poem that you enjoy.
Oh, I can do a haiku. That's like 3 or 4 lines, right?
Yes. Yes.
Anyways, let's get the ball rolling, shall we?
Sure.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode, what are we on, 6?
We're on 6.
Jeez. We've made it 6 episodes, y'all. Episode 6 of Let This Mind Podcast. I'm here with my lovely co-hosts, my friends, my homies, my like-minded folks, Steph, aka Lilac, and Christopher. Greet the people, beautiful melanated folks.
Greetings.
Happy Tuesday. Happy June.
Happy June. We made it.
Whisper for me. Happy June, y'all. So June is Men's Health Month, and we would be remiss if we didn't talk about that here. And of course, because we are mental health professionals, we are going to talk about the mental health aspect of men's health because I have a lot of male friends. Shameless plug. I've done a Black Man Heal series. If you guys want to catch that, go over to a Fighting Chance Counseling Services. Christopher was on episode 1, actually. Christopher did great. I think there was like 8 episodes of that. And I just wanted to talk to men about what it means to be a man, what it means to live in their skin as a, thank you, Steph, for dropping a Fighting Chance Counseling Services. What it means to be a man and having to deal with all of the mental health, because a lot of men don't talk about it. And a lot of men don't have the safe spaces to share what it means to struggle. And oftentimes they're suffering in silence. So we wanted to come on and to honor our men and make sure that we give a space for you guys because you guys need it, right? Now, fair warning, we are not going to give all of these questions to Chris. Chris is not the spokesperson for the male population today. So Chris is definitely going to get a lot of them, though. But if you are in the comment section and you have some thoughts, some ideas, something you want answered or want to plug in, please feel free to do so. Ladies who are here, invite your male friends, share this with them, because this is something, we're not just saying this because we're on it, but this is something that they definitely need. Again, safe spaces aren't really created for men, so we're trying to create that space for men. So with all that being said, as we normally do, we start off with the definition and then we get into a discussion. So I was really looking into like what health means.
Yeah.
And what I found is health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well being, and not merely the absence of disease and infirmity.
Oh.
Right? So, Chris, Steph, feel free to chime in. Health, what does that mean? What does that mean in general, and what does that mean for the male population?
Well, if you don't mind.
I don't. It's Men's Health Month. Please go right ahead.
So, I mean, I think, well, we break it down, start with the basics, right? Making sure that you're going to the doctor yearly or more, right, to get checked up. If you are, I'm not at that age yet, but just being conscious of, how we eat. As we know, diabetes, high blood pressure are things that plague the Black community, Black men especially. Stress is that silent killer. Our physical health, right, our emotional health, going to therapy, and then obviously our spiritual health, and making sure that we're, setting the boundaries and doing the things that we've talked about in the last 5 episodes to kind of fine tune. I would say what makes you feel good, like you feel good as an individual, and what allows you to present yourself as your best self. Not saying that we don't have bad days, but I think health, health plays a big role, and for the people who are, nutritionists and in the gym all the time and know more than me. I have heard that people say like your stomach is your second gut, like your second brain. And then, that aspect of it comes into play in terms of our emotions, like the emotions that we have. If you're an emotional eater and different things of that nature, like it can play a role in those things. But yeah, I think health is just, like you said, Jermaine, the absence of disease. As we all know, this pandemic that we're facing and the things that have come up with people who, got the vaccine, didn't get the vaccine, you got COVID or you didn't. And, I think it's made us more health conscious now than ever. So, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah, I agree largely with what both of you said. Jermaine, I love that definition, right? It's not just the absence of disease. It's like that overall wellness. I think health in the entire being is a balance. You're not neglecting one thing. We're a triune being, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're focusing on the brain or the mental space and not taking care of the physical space or the spiritual space, then there's imbalance. So health to me is balance. Is you are at a balanced place, you're rooted, you're grounded, you're taking care of what needs to be taken care of, and you're giving every single part of you, every single part of your being, like enough attention.
Mm-hmm.
No one thing is just getting all of your attention while other things are neglecting or being neglected or like falling down. So that definition, I was like, oh yeah, like it just hit me because it's, we think of health and it's like, all right, I'm free from disease, but it's that space that you're in where you're in peace and you're just chilling and you're healthy and you're whole and you're well.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, like this month, I wish that for all the men that I know, right? For Chris, because you're right here. I tagged a bunch of my, guy friends and some guys I've been interacting with. Like, health is the goal. whatever that looks like for you, and total health is the goal. So I say all
Yeah.
that to say I love that definition, and I'm gonna have to copy that.
Yeah, it speaks to the wholeness of a person, right? And I think not just men, but people in general, we forget, like Steph said, we are a triune, right? So we're not just all body, we're not all mind, and we're not
Right.
all soul. We are a combination of the three. And I feel like when it comes to men, I've heard I've heard a lot of stories about how men wait to the very, very, very last minute to go be seen by a doctor.
Listen.
And I was looking up statistics on men and mental health, right? And one of the statistics said that men are rarely ones to go seek out mental health counseling, and when they do, it's only in the time of crisis. And I try to encourage anyone that I can, like, don't wait until the crisis is here to seek out help. Like, counseling is not just to how to cope, it's also a preventative. Like, how do I prevent the downfall? How do I prevent myself from going into a black hole and trying to find a way to dig myself out, right? And I think for men, it's really important to understand who you are and where you are, and ask yourself, like, do I need help? If I do, who do I need to go to? And that's kind of why we need to have this conversation, because it's like, where do men go? So, Chris, I'm gonna throw that to you because you are of the male population. When you found yourself in need of guidance, help, support, whatever it was, who did you go to? Where did you go?
Me right now, or me like throughout life?
When it all started, when that engine light in your heart came on, and you said, "I need to check up." Where'd you go?
Looking back on, if you've been paying attention to the podcast for all the episodes and me kind of sharing my background, I think for a majority of like my teenage years, I would probably say, I went to Brockton High, so there was definitely a lot of anxiety just existing in that. Some depression. When I got to high school, college. When I got to college, it was definitely I was in it. Like freshman year, fell into a deep depression. Did not feel prepared to be removed from home. Did not feel prepared to be on I lived on my own before college, but it was just a different animal. And for me, it was really, I lean on my family. I lean on my family, and I lean on, especially my mother, who's been going to therapy for as long as I can remember. She was the one who set that example for me to just be like, I want to talk to someone. I remember, I'm trying to just think of the time, like it was sophomore year, where sophomore year, I legitimately felt like suicidal. And I knew, I was in my field going to Bridgewater for social work. Knew that I was, not being my best self. Reached out to a counselor because they had like free mental health services at the school. I went, I got everything off my chest. It was some random white lady who I met for the first time, and I did a lot of talking, and that talking for me helped. I did enough to where it was like, all right, I feel a little bit better. I can kind of push through. But yeah, I mean, that was kind of I would say one of my lowest points. And then, following graduation, I don't think I was depressed, but it was more or less like, like every grad. And this was during 2020, during like right at the beginning of the pandemic. I went on spring break, March 13th. They told us never come back or not to come back. And I was just kind of like, all right, well, what am I going to do with my time? Like, I graduated college, couldn't celebrate properly. So that's when I became more proactive on my mental health, in terms of seeking out, whether it be men online, in terms of like role models that I could look up to, and that's when I was really heavily into my physical health as well, like walking every day for miles at a time, listening to podcasts, listening to music, just doing things that filled my cup in terms of addressing my mental health. And I eventually did find a therapist, who I've been seeing for the past 2 years, 2021. um,
Right.
and the thing about, right, if I have a pain in my stomach, and if I can't get it out with Pepto Bismol or whatever laxatives or whatever the case is, right, I go to the hospital and they have to run tests, and then they'll give me an official diagnosis, right? But if I'm in my mind, I'm not behaving how I'm normally behaving, withdrawing myself, um, being irritable towards people. Uh, it could be, oh, I'm just going, excuse my language, but it could be, oh, I'm just going through shit, right? Or you need to man up, or you need to toughen up. But um, I gladly, I knew enough, and I had people around me, close to me enough, to know, like, or say, point out, like, you seem, not yourself. I haven't heard from you in a couple months. Like, how you doing? And then it's, oh yeah, by the way, I've been stressed out about school, stressed out about a relationship, stressed out about money, or stressed out about whatever. So, um, like I said, I've always been a reflective person. So for me, it's like I can kind of um, grasp when I can, and then reach out when I need to. But I said all that to say, like, my journey has been for a long time. I didn't always go to therapy, but going to therapy for me definitely, was a more structured approach of figuring out who to talk to. Fortunately, being in the field, I'm able to know many resources, be connected with many people who daily, I can discuss mental health issues and different things, and my personal stuff to some degree. Um, but yeah, once I got to therapy, that was more like okay, giving me the tools and the coping skills that I needed in order to know, all right, I need to reach out when this happens, or you know what, the way I compartmentalize things is a positive, not a negative, but I still need to be reaching out to people and know who supported and who I need to update and let them know, like, hey, I'm not okay right now, but I'll be okay. Um, like I say, right, I'm alive because I am alive. I woke up this morning, thankfully, and I'm able to be present despite the a million things that I have going on. I don't like, I don't ever carry it. I try not to. I do have like a very stoic presentation, but I try not to carry that and project that onto other people. It's more or less like, just, yeah, I might be going through something, but like, give me time and I'll come back around and I'll let you know, what that was, if I need it, if I need to work out to. So yeah, so I would say my mother, um, my therapist, Jermaine, you, um, a few close friends. But yeah, those are the people I can kind of reach out to. And I see in the comments, someone said men, we need man groups, people we can feel comfortable talking about, and relating to it. I agree. I think, just kind of the natural order of life is that women are more social than men. So that emotional fulfillment, right, that women can get from having friends and all the work relationships and all those other things, men don't often have, because it's kind of like, it could be so we're so focused on trying to fix a problem or whatever the case is that we don't see other things that are around us. Well, at least that's for me.
Can I'll wait because I want to jump in on that.
Sure.
So why are you waiting? Go ahead, jump in.
Okay, cool. Okay. I want to say, what'd you say, Chris?
I just talked for so long. I'm looking at the time.
No, it's great. No, you did, but it's great because I'll say this and then I'll say what I was really going to say. Oftentimes, women are talkers. We'll yap and yap and yap. Then, when men want to speak, we're going to overtalk them or we're going to shut them down and not provide a safe space. You talking means to me, and I'm sure to Jamae, but I don't want to speak for anyone. It means that you feel safe enough and comfortable enough to share what you need to share. To be a woman and to create that space for a man, that's everything to me. Like creating that safe space for you to share and talk, do it. You need to talk the whole half of the episode, do it. Because there are times where we'll shut men down. I'm just being honest. We'll shut you
Yep.
down. We won't let you
Yep.
talk, or we'll disagree with you or over talk you. You'll start to talk. We'll over no. Speak as much as you need to. Okay, it's June. I can't talk
No,
about July. July, we might have to cut you down. But
no, my,
June,
mhm.
do it. Okay, do it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm gonna save the thought I was gonna say, but yeah, I mean, my favorite thing is always right on social media because we can't avoid it. Um, there's always like it's like a thing of like, oh, men can't do this, and this, you know, oh, you're not a man if you don't do this. Um, and I always find it funny because it's like, well, this is a human experience, right? I think this is specifically an issue within the Black community, right? Of the divisiveness between men and women. It's, oh, you're not a man if you can't change a tire, or you're not a woman if you can't cook and bear children. And it's always just like these things that are like so, you know, in 2023, it's very much like,
Barbaric.
yes, that's the term. Yeah, that's the terminology that I'm trying to say. And it's like, at the end of the day, we're all trying to have this human experience. Like, who is anyone to tell me that I can't do what I do? And you know, for me, I know it's easier for me to talk about these things, especially because when I didn't, and I didn't even mention this, even though I never talked to anybody, I always wrote. I always wrote all of my ideas. I always wrote all my thoughts down. I always wrote all my feelings down, which is why I'm a poet. I wrote about my pain and write about my pain and write about all the things that go on in my life because that's my safe space. Because if I put it on a piece of paper, I can't be judged as if I were to tell, you know, my mom or a friend. Um, but yeah, I mean, my biggest safe space is those words that I put together on paper or in my notes or
Mhm.
however, whatever medium. But
Yeah. I mean, you highlighted a lot, man. Like,
Yeah, a
you
ton.
had a mom who modeled going to therapy to get the help.
mhm.
And then you were talking about like, listen, I'm gonna try something. I'm gonna go to some friends. I have my mentors, and then I'm gonna go to a therapist. But I'm not just gonna stop at therapist. I'm gonna keep reaching out to my friends. I'm gonna keep finding the safe spaces, and I feel like that is necessary. Like after the pandemic, everyone had to get creative with how they figured out how to get help, right? Because when all of your vices that you once relied upon were taken away from you, it's like, well, then, how do I maintain my sanity? How do I collect myself? How do I get myself together? And like Steph said, it's so important to create the safe space. As a female, I'm going to do that as often as I can. Like,
Yes.
I have a lot of male friends, and I'm like, listen, this is a safe space. If you need to emote, if you need to cry, I got tissues. I got a shoulder. Like, you know what I
Come
mean? Like,
on,
whatever
a
it is
back
that you
rub for
need.
you. What do you need?
Yeah, your bald head, Chris. But like, don't mind me, y'all. Y'all know I'm crazy. Anyway, the men in the comment section, please feel free to talk about stuff. To drop in some little hints, some little whatever it is that you want to drop in there. But something that Chris was saying that I definitely wanted to lead into, Steph, I'm going to throw this one to you, is, men, it is said that 75% of people who are committing or completing suicide are men, right? There was a statistic out there, it looked kind of funky, that 84 men a week are completing suicide. So I don't know how true that is. But um, since you talked about creating a safe space, what does that look like? Because I think a lot of us just think it means showing up, which is good. That's a part of it. But a safe space, how do we create it? What does it look like? How do we encourage that to our male friends, compadres, whatever you want to call them, to come in and be like, this is safe? What does it look like, Steph?
I love that question. And that statistic makes me super sad, right? Because I'm like, man, we're losing so many people. So for me, a safe space is I won't say non-judgmental because you want to hold people accountable. I would say that I am aware when I create a safe space for a man, I'm aware of my levels of masculine and feminine energy. I'm just being honest because to be unaware of that is to overpower someone or to overtalk someone or to emasculate a man. That's not my goal. That's not what I'm pro man, right? I
Yeah.
love men. Y'all are awesome, amazing warriors, kings, and all that, right?
Hmm.
It's offering a lending ear, like I'm hearing you,
Yeah.
and I'm giving you that active listening where you know I'm hearing you, right? I'm not on my phone, I'm not da da da. I'm hearing you, I'm listening to you, and I'm making sure that when you say something to me very vulnerable, right? Like I'm there with you. Empathy is everything. You know what I mean? What I was gonna say before is we tell men when they're boys, don't cry, don't show emotion, be a man, be strong, toughen up, man up. We hit them in the chest. Then us as grown women, we say, why aren't you showing any emotion? Why aren't you crying? Why aren't
Yeah.
you doing this and doing that? It's like a dichotomy. You can't be a man and be strong and all that and then want to be vulnerable, right? So
Yeah.
here's the thing. When I create a safe space, I create a vulnerable space where
Hmm.
you know that what you share, you are going to be safe, your words are going to be safe, that I'm going to encourage you. If it involves physical touch, I mean that rubbing on the hand or rubbing on the back, or you know what I mean, just like being there for somebody, laying a hand on their shoulder, just being there for somebody. I think men need to know that someone is there for them because they are the rocks, they're the pillars, they're always the
Hmm.
strong ones. If you know you can have someone to lean on and you can have someone who you know will support you and be there for you, boom, that's a safe space for me. I'll throw in comedy for me because that's how I operate. But you'll just get a lot of love and you'll know that you're understood and you'll know that you're heard. It's like walking
Oh, yeah.
into like a shelter from the heat, right? If you go on the beach, you want to put up that umbrella. You're
Hmm.
not going to get burned. You're not going to be destroyed physically. I'm not going to crush your spirit, right? I'm going to
Hmm.
uplift you. I'm going to uplift, but I'm going to, that's what I said. I'm going to keep you accountable. If there's something that happened, I'm not going to bash you. I'm not going to be like, I told you so. Oh, how could we have done this differently? Or just like, okay, feel free to share. And as a therapist, sometimes I don't have to speak. I just be like,
Yeah.
okay. That's all that it
Yeah.
takes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't need to share words, just the presence. You'll know in the
Mm.
safe space you have the presence of someone who cares for you, who truly loves you and generally wants you to share. And so if that means me quieting down so you can speak, no problem.
Yeah.
What you share will not be shared out and about. I won't be posting about it. I won't be talking to anyone about it. It
Yeah.
stays here in the safe space. You're not gonna be in my eyes like any less of a man because you're crying
Mm.
or showing some type of emotion. All that is a safe space. And yeah, it's a lot, but we need it, and men really need it. Women
Hmm.
need safe places, and men really need that. So I
Yeah.
pray that everyone finds that. If you haven't, I pray you find the safe space. And women, I pray that you are able to become that safe space for men.
Yeah. Ooh, my best friend's in the comments. Hey, best friend. Okay. So Darren said a safe space for me allows me to express how I feel in that moment, whether that's venting about my week, coming out of my shell, or even just existing in your space without judgment.
Boom.
So everything Steph said, I
Come
guess, is
on.
reflective of what Darren said. So yes, men, come in the comments. Let's talk about safe spaces. Christopher, I'm going to throw this one to you. Steph mentioned something about like creating a safe space means you are not emasculating the male that you are in conversation with, right? And I think a lot of times, unfortunately, women, maybe other men, whenever it comes to a man emoting and sharing and opening up, being vulnerable, they're like, sir, like, what are you doing? Like, that's not what we do. Let's not, blah, 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 blah. Emasculation. Who causes it? What causes it? What does it look like? Speak to us, Christopher. Like, help us out. Help us, women and other men,
Hmm.
not do this to our male compadres.
All right. So I want to answer that. I had a thought before, but I want to answer that and do both. So, first is to acknowledge I don't know if it'll be the elephant in the room, but I think it's more or less obvious, right? But all of us have letters after our name, so that everyone can see. Those letters come with an obligation, right, to not to maintain confidentiality, right,
Yeah.
to not share information that we get. So I think for us and people in the space of mental health work, we carry the, hopefully we can carry those things into our personal lives, and
Yes.
the best free mental health you can get is having a friend who's a licensed mental health clinician or a marriage and family therapist or a
Come
master's
on.
in social work. Yeah, that's just me in the luck of work.
True.
Free to an extent.
Right,
Free to an extent.
Because I think, putting that responsibility on our friends or our partners in our relationships or our family members, right? Oh, it does come with a level of judgment based off of what we talked about before in terms of boundaries. So I just wanted to get that answer out of you real quick. And to answer the question of not emasculating men, right? So for me, right, when people talk about their love languages and all that stuff, the words of affirmation, right, rings true to me as someone who was verbally abused as a child by a man. It took a lot of work in order for me to, be confident in who I am as a man and to know, like, and we'll talk about all this hopefully when we have the time. Your idea of what a man is supposed to be is very toxic, right? Me trying to figure out who I'm trying to be as a man, you imposing your negative ideas onto me is not doing me any justice. It's only continuing the generational trauma that has been brought on by you. So like I mentioned earlier, you're not a man if you cry. You're not a man if you can't change a tire. You're not a man if that whole sentence should be, if you want to create a safe space for a man, you need to eliminate that beginning portion out of your vocabulary.
Yeah.
Because I've never said to a woman, "Oh, you're not a woman because," no, because you don't know a person's background, right? You don't know a lot of Black women, unfortunately, cannot have children due to medical reasons or other things that is something that I'm not going to personally dig at because I'm upset at you in the moment, or because you divulge and share information. So that whole idea of you're not a man if or because should be completely
That's good.
I think it takes a level of, for me, it's always that idea of like, the one thing that always pops into my head is and this is, I'm gonna get a little technical with the terminologies, is Maslow's pyramid of what is it? The hierarchy of needs.
I didn't know what you were gonna say. I was like, "Whoa, hey, whoa, Maslow." Yes.
You can Google it. If anybody, while you're watching or whatever the case is, Google Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yes.
Right. So we all need food. We all need clothing. We all need shelter in order to be physically safe, right? Before we get into the mental safety. If you grew up in a household and an environment where you did not have those three things, it's more likely than not that you need to, either be providing that or working towards that, whether it be a woman, whatever gender you are. That's what needs to come first, right? Whenever anything happens, car accidents, whatever, first responders always say, "Are you warm? Do you need water?" Basic needs. But then again, going into the whole, for me, it's really falling back into that idea of like, for me, self-esteem and self-respect, right? My self-esteem is dependent on everybody's opinion of me. But my self-respect is dependent on what I feel about myself. It took me 23 years. I'm going to be 27, so 23 years in order for me to sit back and say and examine and look at myself, right, as a reflective person and say, you know what, I've made mistakes. I've done a lot of things I'm not proud of, but I'm a pretty good man. You know, if we're comparing, or if we're saying, you know, the idea of what toxic masculinity is or what it means to be toxic, you know, you might have toxic traits, right? Or you might have things that we need to work on. Um, but I know for a fact from myself, you know, anyone who says, oh, you know, to me, you're not a man if, you know, it's not going to bother me as much as it would have 5 years ago.
Mhm.
Because, you know, I'm not going to sit here and list all the things I can do, but I know I'm confident enough in myself to say that, you know, I'm not the perfect man. I'm still a growing man. I'm only going to be 27. Who I'm going to be at 35, 27 is gonna love, right? Who I'm going to be at 50, you know, because the goal is to be old. And if you're not trying to be old, then, you know, you got to reevaluate some things in life. But who I'm going to be at 50, you know, 27 should say, wow, that, you know, I'm proud of all the things that you do, that you did. I'm proud of all the things that you've gone through. So, being aware of those and being conscious of that, you know, it's important. But I think, you know, removing people in your life who utilize that language of, oh, you're not a man because, or you're not a man if, is the biggest thing for me, right? Outside of your physical safety, before you can address your emotional safety, that physical safety has to exist.
Yeah,
that's good.
And then that we can move on for that emotional. But yeah, you know, even like I said, even till now, it's like you can say what you want to say, or however it is to me. But I know, trust me, I know. You know, you're looking at 5'11", 6'1" on a good day of men. So
How does that?
I was just say it.
How does that
let
work?
it have it, Steph. You just
How
gotta
does that work?
let it have it.
Oh, come on.
It's a level, you know, and it's a
Men
level
tell
of,
them. Okay.
you know, when you put the Air Forces and the Timbs on, it adds 2 inches. So it's
Yeah.
you
Yep.
know, right.
Okay. You're right.
But I say that to say it takes a level of confidence, right? And I think that false confidence, right? That idea of you know, cockiness or arrogance plays a role, right? A lot of men are living in that ego part of their lives where they have to protect and deflect and do all those things in order to not be vulnerable. But I know for me, you know, at this point, at where I am in my life, I'm confident enough to say, you know, who I am now is really good, but who I'm going to be is going to be even great because I'm aware of those things.
Period, Christopher.
Yeah, I try not to, you know, I'm a poet at the end of the day. My words are everything to me. If I, you know,
Smooth like butter.
anybody I've been in a relationship with or been with or whatever the case is, tell me when I've been verbally abusive or been emotionally abusive or any of those things. I mean, maybe when I was a teenager, but to who I am now, like, you know, I'm not looking to cause anyone intentional hurt or pain. So, you know, I like to think, you know, I give the respect. I want the respect that I give. So, you know, thinking in that mindset and mentality, I think has done well for me. But, you know, even if you do have, and I'm looking at the comments, you know, your men group and all those other things.
Yeah.
Well, I'm getting to the comments. I was just
Comments are lit. Okay.
You know,
Fiery.
if you have your men group and all those other things, ain't nothing better than, you know, no better feeling than a compliment.
Yeah.
Right? To give a man
compliment these men out here.
Oh yeah, it takes nothing away from me to give another person, man, woman, a compliment. It takes nothing away from me. And my whole thing is, you know, if I'm looking at someone and they have something that I'm striving for, you know, I'm not going to be jealous of it. I'm going to look for guidance to get that. Right? I'm going to say, how did you do it? Because I'm sure I can, but with the right guidance, with the right mentor, you know, you can do really what you set your mind to.
Yeah.
And I firmly believe that. And, you know, until, you know, and I would tell you guys any differently, you know, if I didn't, but I firmly believe that at the end of the day, what you put your mind to is what you get. But yeah, the whole, if you're not a man, blank, that once
Cut it
anyone
out of your
once anyone
vocabulary.
Gotta
opens
go.
their mouth and says that
Yeah.
to me, I'm not. The conversation is done because I'm just like, all right, I'm talking to a unhealed
Mhm.
person. I'm talking to someone who clearly has been hurt by
Yeah.
men, and
Yeah.
it's. I'm not a therapist. I'm not going to function as that for you. If that's the case, I can refer you to several. But I'm just going to
Yeah.
remove myself and set that boundary. Unless you're open minded and willing to have the conversation, I'm not going to
Yeah.
engage
Mhm.
in a
And
what
it's
men
hard to come back
can.
from that statement.
It is. Listen, these comment section is
Look.
amazing. Traquan out here talking about, he body language is important when you're creating a safe space because it's needed, right? If you are looking, your words can say a lot, but your body will throw someone completely off. Darren then agrees and says he will retreat completely
Wow.
if the energy ain't there.
Wow.
It's done, right? Steph, also in the comment section, nonverbal body language speaks so loud. It definitely does. Your face. I have a lot of facial expressions, but I had to learn how to like check that as a therapist. Be like, girl, you're telling the whole story with your face. Molisha is now talking about, how both ends of the equation, right? We have to check our body language. We have to check how we are communicating both verbally and non-verbally. And then Traquan is back. Hey, Traquan,
Yo, he's killing
friend of
it.
the show, friend of
Come
the
on.
fighting
Friend
chance.
of the
Say
pod.
why. Like he's here. That whole I'm not a man thing, it does hurt, and we have to stop doing that. Like, let a man be a man. Like, who set, first of all, who set the standard? I think we've talked about this in every episode. Like, what standard are we putting these people on? Like, who is the standard of what a man is supposed to be? Like, is there a perfect picture? Is there an ideal, like, this is a man? No, every man is built different for a reason. God is very intentional with how he creates. Okay, so if he creates one a certain way, he's a man. If he creates one a different way, still a man. Let a man be a man. Okay. Let's see. Yes. Darren said confidence can make you taller. I guess that was the point to what Chris was saying. 5'11", 6 feet on a good day.
6'1" on a good day.
I'm sorry.
6'1".
Add
Right.
that inch, bro. Yes.
Point guard.
Denise said men like compliments just like women. Honestly, something I'm learning is that men's love language is not just physical touch. That's what we all assume. Men love them some words of affirmation.
Come on.
Like, they need it, because especially our black men, I think the world has created them to be these huge monsters. And if
Yes.
we as women don't protect our men and say, like, they're not monsters, are they angry? You'd be angry too if you were always at the bottom of the totem pole and people look at you like they clench their purses when you're walking down the street, or you're just deemed as a threat. Mr. 5'11", 6'1" on a good day, he's probably looked at as a threat, and he is, Christopher's like a little Care Bear. He's great. But you wouldn't know that by his stature, because he's just a big black man, and big black men apparently are threats to a lot of people. And it's like,
Yeah.
give a man a chance. There's a moral of the story. Like, I don't understand why we are so quick to write men off. Men deserve as much grace as women get. Oh, my daddy's in the section. Hold on. I'm gonna get to you, Dad. Um, Men deserve grace just as much as females do. Men deserve forgiveness. Men deserve love. Men deserve peace. Like, I seen this post um, on Instagram the other day, and I think the other Chris, not you, Chris Henson, he had put it on his page about, like, what is it that a man wants, and there was a common theme. There was like security, support, love, and respect, and community, right? If men don't have those things, like women, we try to find it. We hold strong to that, but men are not given the same type of opportunities.
No.
Let's see what my dad had to say. Um, Paragraph. Hey, Dad. Um, Steph, you are so accurate with the point that men need a place of comfort and space. When black men leave their homes, we are society's enemy number one. Our works, minds, bodies, and souls always at risk of being challenged. We are we are simple beings. You know, Dad, I have a problem with that simple beings because men aren't as simple as they say, but I digress. Satisfied satisfied with affirmations and honor. Also, we need to be understood when we make mistakes. Many of us are scared. We're scarred, sorry.
Yep.
As boys, we cannot be men until those scars inflicted on us as boys are healed. Yeah, for real. That inner child thing that we have to heal, that's very much.
Yep.
Even Chris mentioned it. Chris said, you know, after all the stuff that he had to suffer and the abuse he suffered, it took him a while to be like, this is who I am as a man, right? That inner child in Chris had to heal in order for him to be able to step into the manhood that he has stepped into. So something that I think we have to talk about. Chris kind of alluded to it. I know we're running out of time, but I think this is so good. If we go a little bit over an hour, that's
Yeah.
okay. Y'all here for it because I'm here for
Chill.
it. Chris talked about safety and security. Now I'm throwing this to any and everybody, including in the comment section. Like, what does being safe as a man look like? Because I know for women, we're like, oh, I just want to be held. I want to feel like I got a strong man beside me. I want to feel supported and I want to feel seen and heard. And, you know, that's what women say. But men, now this is going to require some vulnerability. But again, as we said, this is a safe space, gentlemen. So feel free to be vulnerable. We will defend you. We will stand by you. We will support you. However, we need to support, we are going to do it. How do men feel secure? Now, of course, Chris, we're going to throw this to you, but Steph, as a woman and also as
I'm
also
not a
as
man.
a clinician, a sister, a friend, security, what does that look like for men? How do we ensure that they feel safe and secure? Steph, that's on you.
Oh, it's on me. Oh, okay. Sorry. Right. We can't throw Chris every question. Correct. Yes.
I
Yes.
got the answer, but I was waiting for you. Yeah, ladies
Sorry.
first.
Yes, for sure. I love that you talked about how women feel safe, right? We want the big strapping tall person who's gonna
Mhm.
make us feel secure and things like that.
Yeah.
I also feel it's the same exact thing for men, and it might not be physical safety and security, but it's that emotional safety and security. Men need to know, and I'm not speaking as a man, I'm just speaking from knowing a lot of men and being around a lot of men.
Yeah.
Men need to know that when they speak, there's a level of emotional security there, right? So the same
Mm.
physical security that women want,
Mm-hmm.
men, I believe, need to know that emotional security is there, that you are going to know that when you speak, if a tear happens to drop out of your eye, that you're not going to be ridiculed, that I'm not going to roll my eyes or like, I encourage men to cry. I say real men shed tears, and that's the reality, because
Mm-hmm.
crying is such a healing process. But for me, seeing men, I feel like that security is in the emotional sense. And yes, the words of affirmation, where you're speaking life into someone, where you are knocking down those insecurities from a childhood, from childhood. Like, if a man has shared something with you or shared something with me, and I see it kind of popping up or rising up, I'm gonna speak against that thing. Like, no, you can do this. Yes, you can write that book. Yes, you can pen that book of poems.
Yeah.
Yes, you can write that song, right? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
just like very positive things. I think that men need that emotional security. I want you to feel hugged by not just me, but by my words, by what I'm saying. So women need physical security, men to me need emotional security. That that I can be vulnerable because they're warriors, right? They're kings, they're all this, right? All this and they're all that.
Steph, why you?
But then because I'm just chuckling. I'm just chuckling. I just read a comment. But men need to know that when they put their warrior gear down, when they put the battle shield down and the axe down, that they're not going to be hurt. Trey mentioned something in one of his comments. He's writing a book here. Trey, you need to take all these and write a book, okay? Seriously.
Seriously.
I think he mentioned that men who love you, expect like men who love a woman, it hurts so bad to hear like something so rude from them because they let the guard down. So men need to know that if I'm going to let my guard down, if I'm going to put my guard down, if I'm going to lay the shield down, lay all the weapons down, I need to know that I'm not going to be destroyed and utterly crushed by something that you say. I'm letting you into this safe space. Don't crush me. Don't make me regret it. Don't hurt me, and don't make me put my guard up. So
Yeah. I love that part because I think that's not talked about enough. When a man, like, how do you embrace a man? And I think Steph spoke so good to it. She said, "You embrace him in here, right?"
in
Like,
here.
I mean, sure, I'm sure a man loves a hug or two and whatever, but it's like when they are speaking, I think they need to feel not just heard, but also seen and embraced in that moment because being vulnerable as a man is difficult because it goes against the narrative of a man is supposed to be macho. He ain't got no emotions. He ain't supposed to cry. So like when he's given that space to do it, he has to know that it's okay. And he has to know like I'm going to, if you need to be carried in this moment, I'm going to.
Chris, all
Interrupt
right.
me. I had to go on my profile. But when we I'm not saying in this context, but I'm just saying in life, right? You have your phone in front of you while someone's trying to talk to you. That's a physical barrier that you're putting between the vulnerability and what I have to say and a lack of emotional connection. So
Oh, so you were showing, you were
that's what I
demonstrating.
was
Chris, nice.
but I mean personally for me that's definitely one that will immediately shut down any type of communication that I'm giving, whether it be physical or verbal or physical. Like,
if someone has their phone out,
yeah, I mean, context is important, of course,
right?
But if y'all are talking and I'm here like this, I'm not engaged in the conversation. Or if you're not engaged in the conversation, then I'm not even. Again, it's one of those things where one of those red flags, right? That I know that we're not connecting in the way that I need you to.
Yeah.
So I wanted to throw that one out there. Sorry, I was being dramatic.
I was wondering, like, why are you flashing your phone on the screen?
I was
sir?
like,
But I
what's
get
going
it.
on? I said,
Put
what's
the
happening?
phones away so that we can develop a deeper connection. Got it. Okay.
That was good, Chris. That was good.
Period.
Oh yeah, it's definitely like I said, it's a red flag for me. If we all are addicted to social media and our phones at some level, but when you're trying to connect with people and doing all those things, you gotta put away the distractions, right? I won't even just say your phone, but like distractions in general. And doing that check-in, right? Like, can I talk to you? I have to talk to you about something important, right? Those are phrases and things that I've learned in therapy that, if we get upset about someone not paying attention, is did we prompt them to let them know like what I have to say is important. Because obviously, in context, depends on who I'm talking to, what I'm talking about. Some people are able to multitask, but in those moments of, we're talking specifically about safe spaces for men, I think, someone said it. I don't know if it was Traquan, but there's a lot of comments. Someone said it, but, just making sure that.
Say the context, and I'll pop it up on the screen.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and, in the moment, that you want to make sure that you're just giving that full attention. And that's what that's what I really want to just emphasize. Like, it's not about, sometimes you don't have to always have an answer, right? Like, my biggest thing is, and you two know the work that I do, but I work in residential care with teenage boys. So teenage boys who have significant mental health issues. And I take it, as much as I try to, I leave my work at the door, but I take the work I do very seriously because these are the same boys who are looking to become men in this world, right? And for those who are not even if they're or black or a person of color, even if they're white or whatever the case is, they have all of these significant issues and trauma and history uh, in their lives, and we have to be preparing them for what's going to come next because a lot of them might not have supports or all these other things. So my biggest thing is just like providing them with that space to grow, to make mistakes, um, because it's serious, right? If we say the kids are the future, we say that they're the future and all these other things, but I don't want those same boys to become the men that people complain about,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're toxic. Oh, you're this. Oh, you're that. Well, I mean, yeah, because some of them only had those examples. You know, if you go, if you're in the system, it's very difficult to get out of that institute. You're already prepared for the institutionalization, right? That's why it's a lot easier for them to end up with substance abuse in prison with all these other things because they've already been, you know, conditioned to those circumstances, situations. But sorry, I just had to go on that little rant and plug real quick.
It's true. I think we have to remember that if someone is in charge of raising these young boys that are turning into men, and I heard I hang around a lot of older people, right? I heard someone say like we failed because we're not raising the next generation. We got scared, we backed up because they're very aggressive and they're very like combative, as they would say. I think we just have a lot of questions and they're just not ready to answer them. But the community aspect of raising children, we need to get back to that. I think we talked about that a few episodes ago, where it's like, even if my mother wasn't around to raise me because she's busy working like 2.5 jobs and whatever, I was raised by my godparents who lived near me and aunts and uncles and whoever. Like if they saw me out in the streets acting funky, I never did because that wasn't me. It was more my brother. But like if he was out there acting a fool, my mother heard about it. If he was out here stealing something, my mother heard about it. Why? Because the community was taking care of these young people, and we veered away from that. And it's like someone is in charge of raising these men, because like Chris said, and I worked in residential too, it's like if the parents don't do it, they're going to be left and they're going to be like they're going to be program kids, whether the program is residential, it is inpatient hospitals, it is jail or whatever. They're going to be institutionalized, and it's really hard for them to bounce out of that because their whole mindset is I ain't got to do nothing. They feed me, they give me clothes, they take me to appointments, and then when like I have conversations with some of the kids I used to work with, and they're like, I don't know how to do this life. I'm so used to someone putting me in a car and taking me to my appointment. I don't know how to do life, right? And it's like we can't drop the ball and just not step in and try. Will they probably give you an attitude? Probably. Will they argue with you? Probably. But they need to know that someone cares for them enough to sit with them and listen and to talk to them and not at them. But I digress. So, another question, the elephant in the room is this might sound very judgy, but hear me out. Um, Men need to do better with asking for help. Point blank, period. Right? I think men, I don't know if it's because there's not a safe space for it. I don't know if it's because they're not used to asking for help. I don't know if it's because they asked for help plenty of times and it got shut down, so then they just stopped. But men asking for help, how do we promote that? Steph, Chris, comment section. Um, how do we get men to feel comfortable with coming to you or anyone and asking for help? How are they received? And how do men receive help? I just need to know. The world needs to know. How do we get them to ask the right questions and get the help that they need?
I think we're in a catch-22, right? Where men are not asking for help because there are no safe spaces, and there are no safe spaces because men aren't asking for help. We're in one horrible, terrible loop to me, going around and around and around. But I agree that men need to ask for help. especially Black men. It's Men's Health Month.
Mm,
No race, no certain creed, but especially
yeah.
for Black men.
Yeah.
I think we have put so much weight on the male shoulders that to ask for help at this point is like, I have to admit that I am less than a man, and it's really sad. But I want
Yeah.
to say this,
Yeah.
men listening, Chris, as our co-host,
Mhm.
asking for help, I think is a sign of strength more than a sign of weakness, because you're letting yourself know and everyone else know, I can't do it alone. I'm asking for help before I crumble in and am crushed under the weight of whatever I'm dealing with.
Mm,
So
mm,
I feel like men, the first step is just asking for help, really finding a safe space. And I know we're using that word, but literally, like, think about all the people that you know, the groups that you're in. Find, if there's no like 100% safe space, find the safest space just to start. The only way to begin is to begin, right? If you go to
mm,
church, find your pastor or a layperson or someone there that you can trust in leadership. If you're at work, same thing. In your family, in your friend group, that someone else knows what you're going through, who might have the key to unlocking that burden that's on your shoulder, right?
yeah.
It's hard to get that thing off your shoulders. It's hard to get that weight off of you if no one knows how to help you. And then I
Mm,
feel like sometimes that, you know, other people are blamed for not helping, but we can't help with what we don't know. And yes, a lot of us are prophetic. And yes, God reveals. However, it's so important that you share and that you get
mhm,
into that space where you're like, ooh, I can share, because that weight is going to crush the shoulders. You know, men are carrying weight that they weren't meant to carry. Society puts weight on you all,
mm,
and everywhere that you look, it's putting an extra added weight on you. But it's important that you share and that you let someone know, hey, I need help. That you find that men's group. I could hook you up with some people who have a men's group. They meet virtually, they meet in person. Chris Henson, wonderful man of God, great king, who has a men's group just for this reason. Like, if you want the resources, they're out there, but
mhm.
you don't know that you need them until you say something. And so you
Right.
are really showing your strength by saying that you need help, and it's not a weakness. You're showing how strong you can be by helping other people help you. Help us help you. And
Yeah.
I'll let my plane right there.
Listen, Chris, before you answer, this is what I mean. Men aren't as simple as they want to be. We do ask for help, but we ask in code. Now, Traquan,
In
I'm gonna need
code.
you to right. Like, I'm gonna need you to better explain what this code thing is. He did say he knows when another man needs help.
I like that.
That's great. I'm
I
glad
like
you
that.
do. But like, yes. In code, what is the code? Because we're not out here deciphering things all the time. Like, just go out and say it. Like, y'all, I'm struggling with my mental health, and I just need a moment. Anyway, Denise said it's considered a weakness, and they need male role models. Absolutely, they do need a safe space.
I think we need
All
to
of
change the narrative. I think we need to
Yes,
change the narrative that men asking for help is a weakness. And now that I'm thinking about it, I can tell when a man is speaking code for I need help. I can. I
So,
can. I can. It's body language, it's words. I can absolutely. I
mm-hmm.
just don't want to have to crack the code. I don't have to crack the code. I think
so
that's the
what
reality.
Right,
I'd like
right.
to, I think I have an answer for this. I mean, I have a comment, but for me, what I see is this is where that idea of representation matters, right? During the pandemic, during the riots, during George Floyd, all these other things happen, right? What do we see in every single company? Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yeah.
However, the people who are in charge of diversity, equity, and inclusion were not a lot of black men.
No, you're
So
right.
for me, right, and I'll speak again for me, and I can speak for a few others, but for me, in a white female predominant profession, I've come across, thank God for social media, but in my natural goings in my profession, I've come across mm, five black Hispanic men in my field
Mm.
that have been my mentors, that have been my role models. You know, our peers. Oftentimes, yes, our peers can share. Right, I know when something's wrong with my staff. I know when something's wrong with my friends. I know when, they're speaking in code as well. But it's that idea of that we're peers. We can only really share in the stress, not get guidance from each other in order to get out.
Mm.
I think that's where the relationship of fathers, uncles, role models, mentors comes into play, because people who have more experience, right, tend to get a different level of respect than if I were to go and tell my friend who, is the same age as me, same cognitive functioning, same place as me or not, about my issue, right? Just saying, "Oh, damn, that sucks." Might be the response, as opposed to if I ask someone, I'm fortunate to have my grandfather. Now I'm fortunate to have my relationship with my father better, where I'm able to get ideas and answers to situations and problems that I face in life. And that whole idea of representation matters. I think that's the key to what we as black men need, right? Um, if you've lost those men to disease, if you've lost those men to jail, if you've lost them because they choose not to be in your life, right, because of the relationship with the woman that created you, or whatever the case is, there's a disconnect of information that you're not getting, and you're having to figure out yourself, because I can't there's certain things I can talk to my boss about at work, but there are other things that I know she just wouldn't understand. um and I have the utmost respect for her and all those other things, but the representation matters when it comes to uh, who you have and who you can look up to. And I think for a lot of people, it's difficult, and a lot of men, it's difficult to say that when, why would I tell want to share, we talk about the trauma or issues that I'm having with my friends with no solution,
Mhm.
you know,
Mm.
no
That's
solution.
good.
And I
That's
think,
good.
yeah, and I think, obviously, I know there's Kings Amongst Kings in Boston, that does uh, a lot of groups in terms of, for men and women, black men specifically. Um, and I know a few more organizations out in Brockton that do those as well. And I think it's important to insert yourself in whatever way that you can, because you never
Mhm.
know. My thing has always been, I've gotten as far as I've gotten in life, knowing what I know, but it's going to be the people that I know and the people that I meet that are going to get me to where I want to
Yeah.
go. And that idea, that falls back onto community. Um, and if you don't have that community, you have to be intentional. If I want a mentor, and I want a mentor, and I meet someone who I think fits that criteria, how can we organically, meet? Is it weekly check-ins? Is it monthly check-ins? Is it, uh, you know, hanging out for lunch, or whatever the case is? So that way you can build that community. And I know it's difficult, right? It can be difficult because we do, right? You're not a man if you need to ask for help, like that. That stigma of weakness is dead. It's old. I think is very old, and I think it's no matter who you are, what everyone's been a beginner.
Hmm.
So if you didn't ask for help or get help, then how did you learn how to do anything? Um,
Mhm.
so yeah,
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
that's
I mean,
Good.
my dad said something about pride. And, obviously it takes humility to ask for help. It takes humility to receive help. And
Yes.
I feel like, like Steph was saying, like we could probably see it. We can sense that someone needs help. But sometimes it's hard for people or men to receive that help, right? Like I have this conversation with a few of my friends all the time. Like, I want to help you, but I don't want to overstep. Like, let me help you. Like, I see that you're struggling. I
Mm.
want to help, let me help. And unfortunately, sometimes it's really hard to receive that. And I understand it comes from a place of like, no one ever really asked me for help. So I just learned how to do this on my own. And I've learned how to manage. But it's like men are suffering in silence. And
Yeah.
we're trying to break that stigma. We're trying to break that habit of, like Steph was saying, men are burdened down and the weight is crushing on them. Hence why 75% of people who are completing suicide are men,
Yeah.
right? Like men are feeling like the weight is too heavy and no one sees me, no one hears me, no one is embracing me, and therefore, like, what is the point of even trying? What is the point of
Mhm.
continuing on? And the point is that God sees you, God hears you,
Mhm.
and God will send the help. Sometimes we have to allow ourselves to be open to receive that help. We have a question from the YouTube channel.
Okay.
Hello, Sean. Would you consider autism as a health issue? May take
I,
intent.
I think undiagnosed autism is the real health issue.
Mm,
That, and this is, I mean, this is a whole different topic, but could be relevant, right? Undiagnosed autism can be a huge issue because if you don't know that you're experiencing something, or if you're dealing with someone and you don't know that they have something,
mm,
just to take a small tangent, I think that is the bigger issue. A lot of people are know, hey, Lakar, I see you. A lot of people, I believe, are realizing that they have autism. I know older people who are being diagnosed, just like a lot of older people getting braces. It's just happening, right? It's just stuff
mm.
is happening later on in life. It's just a reality. I think undiagnosed autism is the bigger health issue when you don't know you
Yeah.
have it, or you don't know you're dealing with someone with it,
Hmm.
and you don't know why someone's acting a certain way. You could perceive it as rude or mean, or someone
Yeah.
just being like crass or short, or but yeah, that's what I would say to that. Thank you for that question, Sean.
Agreed. Yeah. When things go untreated, it definitely develops into something more. You know, when we get diagnoses or when we get, an understanding of what it is that we're struggling with, now we know like where to focus in
For sure.
on. Without understanding the diagnosis and without understanding like how that looks like in you, you'll just think you're crazy and you're misunderstood. And then that will turn into, I'm so misunderstood. I don't want to live because no one gets me. But if you had the answer of, yes, I have autism, and I know that means I think differently. I know that means I understand and conceptualize and I socialize very differently. You're like, oh, well, that makes sense. It gives clarity, and then you are really flooded with a whole lot of resources that can help you navigate life the best way that you can.
Yeah.
But it looks like we have reached the final end. That is
Oh,
redundant. Hello. The end of this episode. I did want to leave with I was looking online and there was a lot of tips on how to how for how wow. Come on words.
you got it, boo.
5 tips for men to stay healthy. These 5 tips are: stay active, eat healthy, protect your mental health, have a PCP and see them yearly, and then stop using tobacco and drink moderately. Those are just 5. I'm sure there's way more. Um, because it's not just a one size fits all type thing. Like, you have to figure out what your needs are, but definitely paying attention to your mental health. Know it, understand it, evaluate yourself, like Chris was saying, and Traquan even said it. Know what everything is that you are going through. Sean, you are very welcome. Thank you for the question. Oh, thank you, Christopher. 998.
Mm.
Suicide in crisis. And this, please use it, people. Please use it. Even if you feel like there is no one to answer, this hotline is open 24 hours. And there's someone on the other line to talk with you, to walk with you in that moment until, other things open up again. And when in doubt, go to the hospital if you can make it to the hospital.
Yes.
If you can
Don't
make
try
it.
to handle it alone. Don't try to do it on your own. Go to the
Mhm.
hospital. There's no shame. We're humans and we have emotions, and you're seen, you're heard. Man, we love you. We're here for you. We accept you. We welcome you. We're creating a safe space for you.
Yeah, yeah. So before we close out and do our normal like one-liners before we leave or moments of wisdom, Steph, would you like to introduce the next week's topic?
Yes, and I'll just incorporate my one-liner in this. So, next one, let me share this. Go on and follow our YouTube page. Okay, go on and do that. There it is. I'm gonna throw it in
Yeah.
the comment section and all that. Um, I'm a creative. If you don't know me, hey, how are you? I'm a major creative, and my mind is always worrying. And so I heard mentioned a lot tonight that men really love affirmations, and so
Mm,
I have an idea that I want to allow women to share affirmations to men who want to receive it. Right? So maybe we'll do it anonymously, or if you want it mailed to you, or if you just want it in an email, you can sign up and we'll allow for women to just give you words of affirmation to encourage you, to lift you up, right? So
mm,
I'm gonna talk to the team about that and see how we can roll that out. I was just thinking about that the whole time. Like,
mm.
man, we need to uplift and encourage men. So that's my one liner. But now for next week, okay, it's still Men's Health Week. We're talking about health in the entire being,
Yeah.
because this is a mental health podcast. We'll be mostly focusing on mental health. So next week we're gonna do mindfulness in men, or men in mindfulness, and in that we're gonna incorporate how men can practice self care. That's not just a feminine thing to do. Don't think it's just women laying around in the bath all day or going to the spa. But men, you can take baths too, and men, you could go to the spa too and get pedicures and manicures and all that. But I digress. We're talking about men in mindfulness, men with self-care. Next week we are staying on the topic of Men's Health Month. We're taking care of your entire being.
Yeah.
Yes.
Christopher, what do you want to leave with the folks?
Um, I would just like to say thank you to both of you. Thank you to everyone in the comments. You know, we are needed, right?
Yes.
We are needed. We are loved. If no
Mhm.
one's told you, I love you. I appreciate you. Um, because it's life is not easy. Being in this country is not easy. But knowing that you are not alone in it, I think makes it a little bit better. Um, and yeah, it's just let's tune into next week and keep this ball rolling.
Mhm. I just want to highlight the fact that Chris said that he loves y'all. As a
Oh,
man, he
man.
said, I love you. That is
Yeah.
amazing.
Woo.
I mean, I don't really have a one liner because I feel like I was talking the whole time. I just want, again, men, know that you do not have to suffer in silence. You do not have to carry the burden alone. We are trying to destigmatize this whole man up, and you're not a man if we're changing the narrative. So keep walking, keep growing, reach out for help, receive the help. You are loved, you are seen, you are heard, you are embraced. You guys have a blessed night, have a blessed week, and we will see y'all next week.